All right, guys, I got a good one for you. No tablet on this one. I don't need something to keep me on track because this one is story time. This one is something personal and deep rooted from me. Like, this is something that came from my life. Like, all the stories that I've been telling you guys about and all the advice I've been giving you is something that I experienced and learned from. But this is a real true story that I want to share with you guys. Um, I had got a question at work from one of the kids I work with, and they were like, "Mr. Mullins, have you ever had a comeback story?" And I'm like, "Have I? I had plenty." And they was like, "Well, not talking about when you was a kid, talking about as an adult. Have you had a comeback story?" And I'm like, "Yeah, too many to be exact, you know." And they was like, "Can you share one of those stories with us?" And I told them, "Yeah, I can share one of the stories with you." And I wanted to share so many of those stories, so many of the stories that I had in my head. I wanted to share. I could have shared me passing out in my apartment and going into, because I had pneumonia and COVID. This is right when COVID happened, and went into an induced medical coma once the EMTs came in and shoved the tube down my throat in my living room. And you know how I had to learn how to walk, talk, and all that stuff again. I could have shared that story, but I didn't think that they would understand that. And these are fucking teenage boys, so they probably would have laughed at my big ass from that. So I didn't go down that route. But what story I did wind up telling them was about me going back to school and becoming a police officer, and how my GPA was higher than I ever received going to school ever. I mean, ever. Like, when I was in school as a kid, like they were, I was a C and D student. When I got into high school, I was a CDB student. You know, if I had the pass and the class was hard, I scribed for a D. You know what I'm saying? But I still graduated early out of high school, right? But when I went to college to become a graphic designer, man, I did not give a fuck about that shit because I was a young man. I felt like I knew everything I needed to know about art, and those teachers couldn't tell me a goddamn thing about art. So I was just going balls to the walls, did not give a fuck. If they said my art sucked, fuck them. That art is subjective. So I didn't give a fuck. Long as they grade me decently on it, I didn't care. And most of them did grade me very decent on it because they knew the effort that it went into my art pieces that I was providing them. So maybe I didn't get an A on one piece. I probably got a B. So I passed my college degree to become a graphic designer. I probably it was maybe close to a 3, maybe a 2.9. Yeah, it didn't mean nothing. That didn't mean shit to me. So the story I wound up telling them was I decided to go back to school to become a police officer. And I did it because I live in Minnesota and I saw what happened to George Floyd plastered on the TV. So I knew right then and then I was going back to school to become a police officer. And so when I went down to school at MCTC, I literally went down there and got into their law enforcement program. When I got into their law enforcement program, it was the last program for that for that whole thing. They was getting rid of it. So they wasn't doing law enforcement no more. They was doing criminal justice. And so with you doing their law enforcement program, you was in a longer program. So Instead of you doing your associate's degree, it take 2 years and you go off and do whatever, it was like a 3 year program. So you had to take extra classes. And then you had to leave that school, transfer to Hennepin Tech, and do the skill portion to become a police officer. Even if you was going to school for criminal justice and you wanted to be a police officer, you still had to transfer over to Hennepin Tech to do the skills portion. And so I was the last one that's grandfathered into this program. So nobody was doing it. Everybody was taking the criminal justice because it was just a shorter version of the law enforcement program. And I figured, well, if I wanted my bachelor's degree, all I had to take was one more semester and I got my bachelor's degree done. And that's literally what it was. So I just went on ahead and did the law enforcement program. So left MCTC with a 4.0. Went into Hennepin Tech and I started taking the first portion of skills. The first portion of skills is literally just the book work. You learning the laws, you learning how to write reports, you learning case studies and things of that nature. So the first portion, I sat down, I hunkered down, and I was trying my best. But when it came to the actual laws of things, it was fucking crazy. The teacher that I had, he wrote the book. And when I say he wrote the book, he legitimately took all the laws of the state of Minnesota, criminal code, traffic code, you name it, he wrote it. Like he updated versions and put it all together and wrote it out, and we got it from him. And so instead of us paying an arm and a leg by going on eBay or the bookstore or whatever to get a newer version of this book, it was only like $45 from him because he wrote it and kept the and updated the new laws and everything else. And I believe it was like every Monday or every Wednesday or something like that, there would be new laws that would come out in the state of Minnesota, and he would send that to us via email so we could stay up to date on these new laws that was coming out. The class was stupid intense, and he wrote everything from the book to the test, you name it. He's a 30-year cop. He was a sergeant to a lieutenant from internal affairs. And once he got done with that, he decided to become a lawyer. So now, ain't no way in hell you can argue with this man because he did the field. He was in the field for 30 years. Even the last 10 years, he was still in the field because he was doing internal affairs. So he knew what the fuck was going on, right? Then he decided to go become a lawyer. So now he likes to argue. You couldn't fuck around in this man's class. This class was the most hardest fucking classes I ever took in my life. So I believe I had to take 5 or 6 classes that semester. And I passed every last one of them except for his. And I had to take 2 of his classes. One was for the laws in Minnesota, and one was the traffic codes. So the laws itself, like misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, felonies, and stuff like that, what is armed robbery, first degree, second degree, third degree, things of that nature, we had to take in class, right? Then the traffic code stuff, like, like what is the penalty for somebody, speeding over a certain, limit, or what's the penalty of somebody getting a DUI and it's their first one and things of that nature. We had to take those in class, but all those tests was taken on the computer. So I felt more comfortable at home taking a test because I could breathe, relax, take my time because some of the tests wasn't timed versus the other class where you had to get it done before the bell rung, right? Basically, right? Before class let out. This is not high school, the bell ring. Before the class let out. So you felt that pressure. You felt that instant that you need to get this shit done. So I decided that I'm gonna give this shit my all. And I failed. I failed that class. And so my graduation date got pushed back because I felt that man's class, right? That's what I thought. So I went home, thought about it, was like, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking quit. I don't need no degree. And talked to my mom, talked to a few friends, talked to a few coworkers about the situation, and they all encouraged me to give it another shot. It's only one class. Now, keep it in mind, I was working for the Department of Minnesota, right? I was a correction officer at the Shakopee prison, and I worked at overnights. So I was taking 5 or 6 classes during the day and going to work at night. Sometimes I will legitimately work the night shift and then change clothes into my uniform for school because you have to wear a uniform and show up there and do the classwork, right? So I'll leave one uniform going to another uniform. The good thing is that the uniform was a gray polo shirt that said the school name on it and some navy blue plans. Me being a correction officer, we wore nothing but navy blue shirt, navy blue pants, and black boots. So I literally just had to just clean up my boots real quick, keep wearing the same pants, and just change into my polo shirt. And then if it was cold, I can wear my crew neck that had my name on the front, my last name on the front of it and in the back of it. That was it. So kept that stuff in my car. I was ready to go. So um, when I decided that I was just gonna go ahead and retake this class, I hunkered down. I studied my ass off. I legitimately downloaded apps because I have dyslexia. I downloaded apps and had the PDFs of the laws read to me during when I sleep. When I was driving from work to school, I would listen to those PDFs in my car so I can stay up to date on the laws and everything else. And I was still struggle with the fucking tests when test day came around because I had so much anxiety around tests. I ain't even passed this man's tests sometimes. Even though that I took this man's class the semester before, I still was like failing his tests. And when I say failing his tests, like the last semester, I probably got an F. This semester, I'm passing with a D. But you just took this damn test last semester, so you should know the answers. Nope, the motherfucker decided to change up some few words and everything else. So when I was confident thinking that I knew the answer, nope, he changed the shit. Changed it on me. So once I realized that's what he was doing, I just couldn't lollygag and just thinking that looking at the old test that he gave us from last semester and everything else, I had to actually put in the work. That's when I started to pass his tests. And then when I say passing them, it was C's and B's. I ain't never got a fucking A in this man's class, right? So when it came down to the final exam, I prayed, I did what I needed to do, and I was passing this class with a D. And I needed to pass this class with a C. So everything was riding on this final exam. So I took the exam and I passed. I passed the exam with a C, so overall my grade jumped up to a C plus, something like that. About a C plus, close to a B. I was happy as hell because I knew the hard work that I put in to pass this man's class. But that wasn't it. It was still more work that needed to be done. So even though I passed this man's class, so for an example, I took his first class in the wintertime. Then I had to take the other class in the spring. So I failed it in the winter, took it in the spring, passed it in the spring, but my graduation date was still in jeopardy because if I would have waited until the next fall or winter season, my graduation date would have been the next following year. So I had to get into the summer program so I can stay on track to graduate that year. Like I said, I worked it overnights. And me taking off of work for a whole summer was kind of impossible. But since I knew that I needed to pass that class and I was only focused on that one class, I put in vacation time for the whole summer in hopes that I passed the spring class. And if I pass the spring class, I can go on and take the whole second part of skills during the summer. I did. Took the second part of the skill class during the summer, and I had to work a bunch of overtime. And when I say a bunch of overtime, over 200 and something hours I had to get. 250 hours I had to get. That came out to be about close to, I want to say, 30 overtime shifts. And the reason why it was a 30 overtime shifts because I needed to work some of those overtime shifts to take the money. I needed 20, but I needed another 10 so I can have in my bank account just in case an unexpected bill came up during the summer, I can take care of it. And also the gas money going back and forth from my house, where I live, all the way to Brooklyn Park. So did that, worked the 30-hour shifts. The 30 overtime shifts, came out to be the 250 hours that I needed, plus the sick time that I was already accruing and the vacation time that I was accruing as I was going off to school skills. So I was set. Past skills, the second part of skills, and that second part is literally just the actual police work, actually taking what you learned in the books and putting it in physical motions, like doing actual pullovers, doing actual cell extractions, doing actual building extractions, doing actual building clearing and stuff like that, cuffing, doing the actual, control tactics, you name it, you name it, we did it all, right? So it was drooling. This program is literally set for 13 weeks. In the summertime, they narrow it down 8 weeks. So you getting a crash course of everything. So for a 13-week period, it's kind of like you turning on your water faucet at home and you just, trying to pour, fill up your water pitcher. That's how it is. That's how fast it's going. That's pretty fast, right? Now, take that 8 weeks. It's kind of like taking a water hose and a fire hydrant water hose, and you open up the water fountain. Open it up and trying to put out a fire. That's how fast this knowledge is coming at you, and you're doing 8-hour days. 8-hour days that you're doing Monday through Friday. So the first 4 hours you're doing one class, you get a 30-minute break, maybe an hour, and then you go straight into the next class. So you're doing 2 classes in one day. Shit was brutal. So fucking brutal. But I would not ask for anything else more but that. That showed me so much in that time frame. And I really appreciate learning everything that I learned. And I still was able to walk across the stage at the end of the summer and graduate and be able to tell my kids that daddy did it. Daddy got a degree, college degree, and he did it at the top of his class with a 3.8 GPA with dyslexia. So every setback can turn into a comeback. It's how you choose to get her done. If you want to fold under pressure and not become the diamond that you know that you can be, then go ahead, give up and quit. But if you know that you can do what you need to do and keep moving forward, go ahead, grind out, King. Until then, much love.